hello, but also goodbye. With the changing of the runs also comes the changing of the hosts. I've been your host, a 20-something loser, aka Lee. But don't worry. You have a fantastic host that is coming up, which is BigScared. She's absolutely incredible. But don't worry, you'll also be able to hear my lovely voice again come Sunday. So stick around for some absolutely incredible runs for the rest of your evening here tonight.
Hello and welcome back to Lady Arcader's Super Showcase. My name is BigScared and I will be your host for the next couple runs. If you are curious what the schedule looks like moving forward, type !schedule in chat to get that brought up. But before we get into our next run, I just want to say thank you all so much for helping us raise over $800 for CARE. This is an incredible feat. And I just want to remind you real quick before we get into it that we do have a target open for our Kuon run. In fact, we have a $20 donation towards this target that says Lady Arcaders is a wonderful community that I am so happy to have found. Let's go, ladies, and let's get this relationship. That being said, we have a fantastic run-up for you now. We have Quacksilver running a very special Lone Fungus true ending run. Take it away, Quack!
Hello everyone, I am Quack. I have returned to do more Metroidvania nonsense with you all here at Lady Arcaders. This is Lone Fungus True Ending. Super quickly, Lone Fungus True Ending is the run where it's kind of the dev intended or good ending run. We're going to collect all of the spells in this game, actually fight the final boss, and actually fulfill our responsibility to repopulate the Earth with fungal biodiversity. I am once again joined on the mic by the inimitable Allison 8-Bit.
Hello, hello.
I'm super excited, but before we get into anything, I do need to know which version of Green Cap I'm going to be rocking into this run. What skin of our 3 available skins won that bid war?
Excuse me, could you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry. Before we get into everything, I need to know which of our 3 skins won the bid war.
The bid war. Let me just pull that up real quick. It looks like Haiku won.
Perfect. Balanced as it should be. So the devs of this game and Haiku the Robot, which I ran yesterday, are like good friends, and they both have coded things into their games about the other because it's so sweet and wholesome, and I'm very grateful to be rocking the Haiku cap. It's my favorite skin in the game. That said, we're gonna kick things off, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. So, right away, the first action, and I swear I will make this joke every time, is I actually don't feel like playing this game very much, so I am going to quit out. That is because our first save point that the game hard saves you at is actually at a shrine about 20 to 30 seconds of walking in front of where Green Cap spawns in, so we just immediately say no thank you and then resume playing again. Now, Lone Fungus is a very classically minded Metroidvania. We've got, like I said before the run started, 10 spells to pick up. That's going to be our major source of damage, and in some cases, movement. But in addition to those spells, there are going to be several abilities that I need to pick up in order to access new areas. Now, this tutorial area, Deep Grotto, is fairly linear. There I picked up my Pine Sword, and a little bit I'm going to be getting my defensive ability, and then we're going to be getting our basic movement abilities. Something very important to mention in this game is that Green Cap cannot upslash. He cap too big for he gosh darn sword. I'm hoping that reference still holds up. But that means that the way to deal with enemies and bosses that exist above you in the world, of which there are a great many, is going to be first and foremost this ability that I'm going to grab here in just a second, which is our parry ability. So in this game, nice, got a cute little damage boost there. You'll see on my UI below my health and my mana bar, 3 yellow triangles. Those are my parries. They go gray when they're off cooldown, and it shoots a projectile upwards that does actually more damage than my sword, at least right now, and I think for the entirety of the run. As well as lets me simply iframe through enemies as well as projectiles. So I will be making good use of that as we move on down towards this first boss.
Yeah, so the bosses in this game, there's a lot of them. We're going to be going through, I think, like about 3 or 4 in the first 10 or so minutes. This whole run should be about 40 minutes, and we're going to be going through, I believe, 14 bosses or something like that.
That sounds about right.
It is a very large number, but this boss has a very fun strategy of just get on top and pogo.
Yep, game has to teach you how to deal with things that are big and flying. Strategy 1, simply be above the boss. Something to note there is that the boss's hitbox is like contact hitbox ceases to exist the moment the health bar hits 0. So for a lot of these bosses, at the end you'll see me pogoing fully inside the boss in order to pick up the item that they drop as fast as possible. That item was the Mush Mover Infusion, which was turned on all of these little mush movers here, which are how this game sort of does platforming. There are several types of mush movers, some that look fancier than others, that are different colors. There I just picked up a brain node, which is the equip slots for this game's equip system. Badges in Paper Mario or charms in Hollow Knight, depending on your vintage. And yeah, here I'm just going to be doing a little bit of backtracking through the first area as we get to our second boss. So now would be a quick early shot if we have any donations or messages from the host.
We've got a couple quick donations. The first one is a $15 donation from Zokubun that says, Berry, Berry, Berry. And they put it towards the Kuon bonus Kuon phase run. So keep those donations going. If you want to put them towards a target or a poll, make sure you do that when you donate. Is there time for one more?
Yeah.
We've got another donation from Nyx and Quado, who are in the same room, saying, good luck shrooming, Quack. And they have put it towards another poll, which we'll tell you more about in detail later on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm super grateful to be sitting here, the beneficiary of all sorts of silly meme incentives. So please go ahead and spread the love. Kick those to some incentives down road. Every runner deeply appreciates being able to do whatever wild nonsense we have planned for you here today. Speaking of wild nonsense, this is Mage's statue. There is ideally a 1 cycle on this boss that I'm gonna go for and miss. That's okay. Let's see if we can't back it up with a 2 cycle, maybe?
Yeah, the boss has a lot of teleporting and patterns, and it's like really not too bad. Like a boss that I don't think most people will die to in a casual, but definitely a lot of moving to get around in that one.
Yeah, and with that, I now have, right away, 5 minutes in or whatever, the most broken piece of movement in Lone Fungus. It's this ability called Conjure Mush Mover. Conjure Mush Mover is like half spell, half not spell. We'll talk about the ways in which it is and isn't a spell later. But what's really important is that it lets me place a Mush Mover anywhere in the overworld that I can use to pogo. And while it is affected by gravity, it is affected slowly enough by gravity that this is already sort of a double and sometimes triple, and because we're speedrunners, infinite height jump. That's not even the broken thing I'm using it for right now, though. The broken thing I'm using it for right now is this technique called mush boosting, where I drop it behind me and then immediately turn around and jump the way I was originally going to get a quick boost of horizontal momentum. Mush Mover is basically a bespoke build-your-own skip tool, and it's always super fun to me to see the sort of creative shenanigans that speedrunners and casual players of this game alike can get up to with something so powerful so early.
Yeah, it's a really wild tool, and that's one of the things you'll notice with this game is that there's a bunch of complexity and a bunch of various things going on with the movement. The combat is very straightforward comparatively, but there's just movement stuff going on all the time. At least basic combat right now. It'll get a lot crazier later as well. So now we're making our way over to Color Cavern. So it's going to be a boss we're going to be finding.
This is one of those skips that everyone has their own version of. You find it in your casual. You're supposed to have a proper second jump or an ability for that, but there are dozens of ways to get up there with Mush Mover only, and unfortunately our reward is the most frustrating boss in the game, probably. This is Queen Evil Eye. She's also a giant flying thing. However, unlike our previous giant flying things, she is incredibly erratic, hard to get and stay on top of, spawns adds, and there are spikes in the ceiling. So let's see if we're gonna get a well-behaved QE today.
This is a good start. You want that slamming pattern to be on a spot where there's not going to be spikes above. You're able to get quite a bit of damage there. Phase 2 is when the ads start coming up really frequently. And one thing you may not have noticed yet is that Quack is actually able to attack and hit the various projectiles when we do the parry, to sometimes redirect them if they're not going to hit directly, and they can also increase damage, at least with an ability we'll get later.
Yeah, we were actually blessed in that QEE fight because normally she spawns 2 waves of ads, 1 wave of a single ad and then 1 wave of 2 ads, but because I double parried her projectiles there, she hit the 2 wave fast enough that she spawned 1 extra ad. It's like the accidental curly fry of Lone Fungus. So now we're into probably my favorite area in terms of soundtrack. This is the Mechanical Fort. As I get a little bit bullied there, that's fine.
That's where we're getting.
You do heal on entering boss arenas, so I can play a little bit fast and loose with my health here, which is nice.
And we can also intentionally take a death in certain spots to get a full heal as well, which is different based on which difficulty you're playing on, which is kind of interesting. You'll just respawn at the start of the first room. Yeah, this is Master Block Monster, who is actually quite a fun boss because there's so much like movement just to get around and keep attacking the little balls back at them. But this is going to be giving us one of the most powerful spells, both for skips and for combat in the early game.
Yeah, that fight is entirely choreographed because the bouncy balls always fall in the same way, and there is an even faster cycle than that involves like parrying some of the boss's own projectiles, but the bouncy balls do 70 damage each, or 75 damage each, and parries do a lot less, so we go for the safe cycle. That's only about a second different. And here I am stopping to pick up one of a couple of relics that we're going to actually put into our equip slots there, into our brain nodes, before we make our way on to our next boss. One of my personal favorites, the Screw King. So Screw King is a totally choreographed fight in theory, but we have just gone out of our way to get a spell that deals 70 damage. So while you're supposed to hit his weak point 10 times and go through a long and arduous fight where he has several invincible phases, we can do that. 2-shot the boss with our nice little spell. It is one of my favorite little tricks in the run. Nice, got it. That's a nice quick kill there.
Yeah, the cool thing with the bouncy ball spell is that the damage it does is based on how fast it's moving, which is a really cool little bit about it.
Yeah, and that does mean there is a little bit of variance to that, but actually, yeah, let's equip. It does mean there is a little bit of variance to the bouncy ball, but all we need is to hit at least 50 in each attack on Screw King, which is very consistent to do. So now, I know I have already said that Conjure Mush Mover is the most broken movement ability in this game, and that's true. That said, I am on my way to go get the most broken movement ability in this game. There are lots of contenders for that. And this is actually a two-part thing. First, I'm going to get the ability to breathe underwater up here. Now that we have that, so ordinarily when Green Cap goes underwater, a countdown timer starts to play, like a slightly friendlier Sonic countdown, slightly friendlier. At which point you have to come up for air. Water breathing obviously lets us bypass that. There is exactly one pool of water in the game that it is impossible to, like, go swimming in and get to where you need to go within the time limit. So this is regrettably forced, but it is absolutely worth it for the prize at the end, which is Ground Bounce, the most powerful ability in this game. Ground Bounce solves our movement. It does our taxes. It clears our pores. It waters our crops. Despite there being an ability called Wall Bounce in this game, Ground Bounce also lets you bounce on walls. I am not making this up. So I'm going to, as soon as I grab it, which first of all, does anyone like ice physics in your platformer? Me neither. But...
Oh, this area has such weird enemies. There's goblins, there's penguins. Sorry, not penguins. Like generic penguins that are not officially penguins.
Okay, I would like
and there's
that.
like some spiky enemies. Yeah, here's one of the safety deaths we can take just to get a full heal.
Yeah, so I'm playing on Explorer difficulty, which in addition to giving me 7 HP instead of 5 for normal, or 3 for hardcore, also makes the deaths in this game behave like Celeste. This is Ground Bounce. The movement speed is slightly higher now. And it makes the run much more approachable, much more marathon-friendly, lots of cool things. I also just love that there is a difficulty system that behaves like that. So I'm also going to grab a sword upgrade here, and then I'm just going to do a little bit more movement. So if we have any more messages, now is a grand time.
We do not currently have any new donations, but can I tell you about the poll that's open right now?
Please do.
Awesome, because we have a fantastic poll right now for our upcoming Cult of the Lamb run, where viewers get to decide what the cult's name is gonna be. Right now, Relationship is in the lead with $70, but coming up behind them with $20, it's not that far of a gap, folks, so you can totally close it, is the lady Bad Caters. At $15 is the Bad Touch, and then at a lovely $10 is World Rulers. So if you want to upset the balance, if you would like any of these truly, truly fantastic names to usurp the relationship, now is the time to donate. You can lock it in on the poll. You can also contribute towards the Kuon bonus phase run goal, which is at $45 of $100. Remember, every little bit counts, and every little bit goes towards the lovely organization we are fundraising for, which is CARE.
Thank you so much. Yeah, let's get all these incentives. This all sounds cool, although I have to say I am a fan of the currently leading, that's like, Lady Caters is fine and all, but Relationship is simply inspired. If you want my 2 cents. I am just a humble Metroidvania runner. And speaking of, we killed a boss there. That was Big Germ. Other than the fact that sometimes I randomly die to Big Germ, I don't want to talk about it. Big Germ is not particularly noteworthy. They did, however, give us an ability called Bouncy Spore, a spell I should say, Bouncy Spore, that is going to form a nice piece of our damage starting in just a little bit. Yes, there you can see me ground bouncing up walls, because of course you can do that. It says it in the name, ground bounce.
So now we're heading over to the Red Crawler Queen, I believe?
Yeah, I want my parry emblem. So in that last room, I picked up a parry emblem, which is just an upgrade for my parry. That will increase its damage from 30 to 45 total, which is a nice little QOL buff.
Yeah, and so this boss is going to give us a really useful ability at the end. First, let's talk about the actual boss.
Yeah, so this is, once again, for this early phase of the game, my damage is Bouncy Ball.
Yeah, we're going to be using this quite a bit, and you'll see just like huge chunks of damage. Just the biggest thing is we do need to have mana for our spells, and so to get that, we have to get some hits in with our sword.
Yeah, and you can see for spells other than Mush Mover, which doesn't cost mana, which is one of the reasons it's only half a spell, a count of how many casts I have available is actually very helpfully provided on the UI, which I love that, because I do not want to have to think about whether or not I can take a game action. But yeah, we also got the quietly best form of movement in the game there, just the ability to teleport. Every boss in this game hard saves you as you enter the boss arena, so I can't save and quit out there. Put a pin in that for later. Pogoing a bouncy ball refreshes my dash. We'll revisit that in a little bit. But I can teleport now, so I basically can save quit out of bosses, which is important.
So here we're just doing a little bit of movement to get to a specific shrine for a later teleport, and then heading back up through this area. This is a lot of very fast movement, a lot of hazards with spikes, enemies, and everything. Big acid pools.
Yeah, this game does take, especially in some of the later areas, it does, you start to feel the Mega Man vibes. Very crowded hallways, lots of enemies, lots of things going on.
Yeah, and so just by entering the room with that large golden shrine, we'll be able to actually teleport to it later, which will be super useful for our late game routing. And it's just the best time to do it is to get it out of the way super early. And yeah, like this game clearly knows about Pogo. It actually, even if you don't quit out when you get the sword, it will actually have a Pogo tutorial, which, you know, some games don't teach you how to do that. Just assume you'll figure it out.
Not to point fingers here. So that's my second and final sword upgrade for this run. This is always a corridor that like randomly kills me, so we're gonna try to be good at video games. Heck yeah. Nice. And up in this next room, I'm silenced, which means I cannot cast spells or heal, and that includes Mush Mover. So that's the reason we get ground bounce so early, because you can ground bounce on the walls and just climb up here without needing to get the crouch jump ability, which we're not going to get this run, because it's not a spell. And this is fan favorite boss, Rogue Armadillo.
Yeah, they have a few different things that they're going for. The big thing is we're just going to want to make sure we're getting the bouncy ball to hit them. Ideally, we're getting close to that 70 each time. But they throw different projectiles at us. They have quite a lot of range with all their tips attacks. And they don't ever stagger, so you want to be careful to just keep moving and try to be in the air, as they don't usually go up too often. But quickly dispatched. And from here we're going to be getting the spin jump ability.
And so right away we see those special angled looking Mush Movers that are that can only be interacted with via spin jump. So yes, the full suite of movement in this game. We got dashing, we got jumping, we got bouncing, we got spinning. Pogo refreshes some, but not all of those. You can do some, but not all of those once per airtime. Our quote-unquote double jump is actually an up dash. We were just talking about so many other things that we decided to spare you the what's up dash joke, which I have now unspared you from. You're welcome. And that's the full suite of movement in this game. There is a lot. It's kind of my favorite, though.
One of the big things to note with the spin jump is that while it's really powerful, and there is going to be something we're going to do with it in a little bit later, let's hope we don't die in this room.
Yeah, let's not redo that climb, thank you. Okay.
But once you start a spin jump, you actually can't exit it until you either land or get hit. So we want to be careful about how we use it.
Yeah. This is another solid contender as far as, There's another solid contender as far as soundtrack goes. This is the Corrupted Tunnels. And
you'll see there's like the little like reddish thorns. When we actually hit that, we will immediately hazard respawn, but the nice thing is it actually doesn't hurt us. That's a very nice quality of life. I'm not sure if that changes on higher difficulties, but it is
Don't
something
believe
that
it does, but I'm actually not sure. I spend almost all of my time playing this game on Explorer because speedrun brain.
But yeah, so you'll see that in quite a few different spots, and it will give us like lots of retries when it comes to certain things, with some of our skips that we go for later.
Yeah, and coming up in a little bit here is probably one of, if not the hardest movement skips in the run. So first I need to pick up another relic that we're going to need much, much later, or right now, depending on if I can get this skip in a reasonable amount of time or not. So the actual hardest skip is to not pick up that health fragment, because we don't need it, and because the health pickup animation takes approximately 11 years. So I'm picking up this relic, maybe. There we go. Picking up this relic called Shadow Spin for later, and then we're going to try and leave corrupted tunnels into mossy ruins. And remember a while ago when I said that that pogoing a bouncy ball refreshes your dash? Nice. Okay, got that in one.
Let's try.
Never any doubt. So that's very finicky, because there is a way to back that up, actually. Because if you fall into red vines, you actually do regain a small amount of mana. So it's not just instant, like, save reload from Shrine, but it is still not fun to be sitting there constantly dunking yourself. And once again, our reward is a very difficult boss. We got an HP sink here. This is great Electro Hive, but now our damage has at least upgraded to Spin Slashing, which creates this, to Spin Slashing Spore specifically, which creates this fun little... Hello?
You are getting massively bullied by this boss.
It's fine, never any doubt.
Yeah, we can also be using mana to heal, but of course that affects our DPS, and if we're in the fight longer anyway, we may as well just not do the healing and just get all our spells in. It is quite tricky because there's just so many ads, there's like lasers, and we're just trying to dodge what we can, parry when we can, and get in damage. It's definitely not too bad, and unlike the hive, the hive enemy from yesterday, this one is much more reasonable to die to.
Yeah, it covers itself much better than the other,
I don't understand why there are so many enemies that are just the hive, but you know, it sure is something.
My least favorite is when the one ad will body block for another ad.
We should have it right here.
Yeah, there we go. Alright. Bullied today by Great Electro Hive, that's fine. Now we can start trivializing bosses, though, and that's what's important.
Yeah, this is the Great Spin Slash, which will be used for a few different things. First of all, it's used to break through any of these roots and a few other background elements that would be blocking us otherwise. But also, it is combined with some of our spells to just unleash so much damage that it just will make boss fights nothing.
Yeah. And now I gotta add... Well, no, we'll save Barry. We'll save Barry. So we're gonna go and grab our fight, probably the biggest casual wall boss. Certainly my least favorite boss casually. Which would be Primarily because, of course, unsurprisingly perhaps, it is a boss on an arena that is full of ice physics. But first we have a little bit more just raw platforming to do. Alright, we're gonna take a safety death in the next room. So, actually, if we have some messages, now would be a grand time. Just gonna be waltzing on down.
Looks like we don't have any new donations, but we do have a new incentive open I can tell you about.
Heck yeah.
It looks like we have a new poll open. So if you are the type of person that really wants to support Lass and really wants to contribute and support Care as well, and you don't want to usurp the relationship, I know it's a beloved name, it's winning by a landslide right now, but you want your money to go towards deciding the fate of a run here during the showcase, you can put your donations towards Splattermaster and help Gala choose the ending of the run, either the good ending or the bad ending. And so chat, it's gonna be in your hands whether or not we become a real boy or rest in peace. And that's a huge weight that only your donations can help us decide. Keep that in mind.
Lovely. So this was the Ice Elemental Lord, or as the community calls them, Jerry. And that's a boss that we took out in 4 attacks, I believe.
Yep, 4 Great Spin Slashes. Great Spin Slash is very, very good.
Yeah. What we got here is actually an upgrade to an even better damage spell, but one that is much tighter in the window where you can get the damage in, and a much harder one to hit. But if you can get it, it's going to be very useful for certain bosses. For the most part, though, I think we'll be sticking with the combination that we have right now with the spell.
Yeah, so great Spin Slash on Bouncy Spore gives you 8 ticks of, I want to say, 28 damage a pop.
That is correct. It's 28.
Vibrant Crystal Spin Spore gives you... Oh, you're going to follow me. I'm going to heal. Vibrant Crystal gives you a somewhat contested number because it's changed a couple of times over patches of... Yep, that's why we heal. Of 39, but it's much tighter to land. So there are a couple of bosses that I'm going to be using Crystal on, but by and large...
Yeah, the previous version of the spell that we were doing was doing just half as many hits. So this is literally doubling the hits damage we're getting with the Electro boss. Although it is a bit tricky, because again, you're holding a spell down, or you need to have a spell, you need to jump, you need to do an air slash, and then let go to make the attack, like have a charged attack. It's just so many inputs. It is very tricky, but it melts bosses, so we're doing this a ton.
Alright, now we got some good old-fashioned skips coming up. I did not want to learn there.
You don't want to go to the tutorials?
We'll have time for that at the end. I could take questions after class. But no, we're gonna go through Acid Dungeon here, to the shrine that I had set up earlier.
Yeah, this is actually one of the coolest pieces of movement.
Ultimate proof as to just how busted ground bounce is.
Thanks, Thorns.
Thanks, Thorns. Just reminded me. Alright, with 3 HP, I'm gonna die here to set it up. So this is a long silence room that's meant to teach you that you can get an ability that lets you jump on the surface of acid, but rather than do that...
Oh, that's the vanilla intended way to do it? I had no idea.
Yeah. We're just gonna go for a swim. And that's Sandal's skip. And our reward is this boss, Sheldon. One of the only bosses who gets a name.
Sheldon with 2 L's, of course.
Comedy Mastermindery.
Yeah, this is a very simple boss, but can still just get you at any point. Once you get to this phase, though, we're mostly just going to be just getting a bunch of sword hits in, trying to maximize our damage.
Yeah. One phase on Sheldon is all you need. There is a quick kill there with a Great Spin / Vibrant Crystal, but it's very easy to bonk into the ceiling and just take a ton of damage, and I died several times that way during practice, so we're not going to tempt fate today. We got one more Silence Room that we are once again going to cheese through use of the Ground Bounce ability, because again, does your taxes. And with that, we are into Undergrounds. Now, you are supposed to get the ability from Undergrounds called Berserk that makes you strong enough to break these boulders. And this is supposed to be my way out, because the game expects you, on an average playthrough, to visit Mossy Ruins last. It was the last area developed for the game, and it is the expected last area. But because we snuck out there so early, we can also, the boulders aren't coded to break to specifically Berserk. They're just coded to break when you do enough damage to them in a single hit, which Great Spin / obviously satisfies as well. But yeah, Underground is lots of cycles, lots of spinning maces. This is a bit of a contentious area. Some people love it, some people really do not like it.
Yeah, one of the interesting things with development for this game is that, unlike most Metroidvanias, which are, just shipped as a full finished product, this one actually started in early access and had, I believe, like 3 or 4 periods of time when there was like pretty major updates added. Runs were being done before there was even an ending to the game, and that was quite a time. And the game fully released a few months ago, I believe in April. And it's gotten a pretty big speedrun community ever since then. So now we're on the Lord of Darkness. This is yet another boss. We're at a point where we're mostly, there's not much we really need to do anymore, minus just gather all the spells to finish the requirements we need to get the true ending. And so this boss is pretty simple, a little bit of projectiles here and there, some big attacks, but again, we're doing our basics strategy of deal lots of damage to the boss and kill them. Unheard of in most speedruns. And hopefully they don't kill us.
Alright.
Commentator's curse. Yeah, this is closer to the damage we normally would expect. Sometimes you just like miss 1 or 2 of those, then your mana's low, and then it's hard to get the mana. This boss does try to keep you away pretty well, so second try, always good.
Alright. Now we go on our world tour. That's the last little bit of mostly like skip tech, so to speak. So now we've got to clean up all of the spells. We have our damage, we have our accoutrements, we have all of our weird and wacky movement. There are 4 spells that we still need to grab a hold of before we can end the game properly. So now we've also set up positions in all of the areas where those, set up shrines in all the areas where those bosses are.
And yeah, so as we're just very powerful now, it's mostly just go find boss and melt them pretty quickly. This one would be a little bit more difficult if we didn't have some sword upgrades, but it's still pretty simple with everything else we have together right now. And we're just going to keep using the teleportation wand as soon as we defeat the boss, as we just are just gathering everything. This will be where we'd use the teleporting the most.
Yeah, absolutely, as well as the inter-shrine teleports. And coming up, we're going to our next Elemental Lord. Yeah, I think this is the second one we've seen.
Yeah, this is the fire one.
Yeah, I'm very impressed that you got the names. I have been a part of the community for Lone Fungus since early access, and the Elemental Lords have rhyming names. They're Jerry, Larry, and Gary, to go with Barry, who we'll be talking about in a second.
This is Gary.
but I confess to not having any idea which one is which.
If it wasn't in the route notes, I wouldn't either.
Nice, there is a good quick kill. Bye. You said Gary?
Yep.
I gotta hand in my Lone Fungus Runner card. Bye, Gary. Alright, so now we need to return to that one relic I mentioned much earlier. This is Shadow Spin. We're going to use it to cut another ability. That's Shadow Spin. Now you know. You're supposed to get a magic crouch jump ability that lets you crouch jump through the jet of fire, but since Shadow Spin gives you invincibility frames, when you spin, you can use it to cheese. I guess it's clearly intended.
This is the Corrupted Falafel, which is certainly a boss name. This is also the first boss where we're going to be using this very high damage spell. And we're just getting really good hits on this. This is probably the ideal spell for most bosses in fully optimization stuff, but it's just so many inputs and it's so hard to actually get it on all of the bosses that
You're dead.
we just do it in a few spots.
And now I do need to confirm, I think I may have given the game up a little bit, but we are going to see Barry today, right? We did meet the Barry incentive. Well, we wait
Yes, we did. We are gonna see Barry today.
Heck yeah. So I'm gonna go grab him here in a sec. First, we gotta do this skip called Spiky Skip. As is always the case, this is a case of silenced rooms. So you're supposed to get an ability from a boss called General Spiky that lets you magnetize to this rail. There we go. It lets you magnetize to the rail, but we don't need that because Ground Bounce, sing it with me if you've heard this one before, is a little bit overpowered. And now let's talk about Barry. This is Barry. He's our only friend in this world. We're going to be babysitting him for the final boss fight in this game because we deserve to not truly be alone in Lone Fungus.
Yeah, this would be the final Elemental Lord here.
Yeah, so that makes this one Jerry? No, Larry.
Larry. But yeah, this boss is not too difficult, but very just this movement doesn't want to stay still. And it's not too bad though. It's the only other boss I think we're gonna be using this spell on, because when they do stop moving, they're a very easy target to get a bunch of damage in. They just want some ads, but it's not much of a problem. There are some pillar effects. Also not too bad, but... But yeah, so like for this, you need to be like holding a spell to get that charge, or holding an attack to get that charge. Then you need to like be in the air, use the spell, and then hit the spell with the special charged attack. And so it's just a bunch of inputs.
Yeah.
Very easy to miss one and then knock the attack off. But
Alright, we got our spells. So, what is supposed to happen first, I'm going to equip Barry. This is Barry. Everyone say hi, Barry. Second,
hi, Barry.
What is supposed to happen is you are supposed to go from here to talk to an NPC called the Hyperbolic Host, who is going to tell you that you have done it. You can, successfully repopulate the world with fungal biodiversity, open a path to the surface for you, and you're good to go from there. We're not going to do that because it was actually discovered quite recently that you don't need to. This is a path to the surface from... that is most commonly used in the selfish ending speedruns, which is the speedrun where you go up without all of the spells. And the game doesn't actually care which path to the surface you get to. Or which path you use to get to the surface, rather. So we're just gonna sort of cheese our way up here nicely.
Yeah, and this is actually a path that will take it in a different ending that we're not going to be doing ourselves. And this is actually very difficult. I spent multiple hours trying to figure out how to get this movement myself with similar equipment, and it was just very hard.
Yeah, so a while ago I mentioned infinite height on the mush mover there. There you saw a technique called the spell cancel pogo. I had to show it off this run, where by swapping spells you can make your mush mover despawn and respawn faster than it should. And Barry is helping. Look at Barry, he's helping.
Oh, actually some helping. But yeah, like, so for one of the endings we will get up there with almost no equipment. And we did this with low equipment, or with high equipment anyway, because why not? It's a bit faster rather than going all the way around the world.
Alright,
So
that was
phase
Clean Watcher
one.
phase 1. Yeah, so phase 2, surprise, phase 2, we got ourselves. And what's most noteworthy about this phase is that in addition to these dive attacks, Watcher fights you with the spells that you've learned. Or, you know, most of them, although I guess he's not interested in doing any right now.
Yeah, and this fight is quite tricky. Not too uncommon to take a death at some point here. Just not a ton of chances to heal. A lot of attacks come out very quickly. We'll practice on a bunch of this, so this should be no problem for her. And yeah, you're seeing all these spells that we never used because we grabbed the good ones early, and just kind of let the rest of them just kind of exist. And yeah, it's just a pretty simple.
Yeah, this is just
Fight
sort of
what
a
you do.
showcase of all of the stuff that we've gotten, even if we're not actually the ones showcasing the stuff. I just want to say thanks again so much to everyone who helped get us a babysitting gig for this. Barry is really surprisingly holding his own in this fight. So time's going to be coming up. It is as soon as the boss's HP drops to 0, and as soon as time does get called, there is going to be a brief flashing lights warning. I want to try and ideally set it up so that Barry can get the kill. I think that would be neat. But nah. That's time.
GG.
Barry's still helping at the end there. So yeah, while I'm locked into this, I will say, please run Lone Fungus. It's a ton of fun. You can do uncalled for things with all of the buttons in this game. It's a young speed community. It's a game that's just started. This is the flashing lights warning. We're gonna burst into rainbows and then repopulate the earth. You know, like you do on a Friday night. It's a young speed community. I'm super grateful to be a part of it and to hang out with some really cool folks playing a really cool speed game that I think is underappreciated. And yeah, Allie, do you have any shout-outs or whatnot?
Thanks for having me. Hope everyone had a good time watching.
Thank you for a phenomenal run, Quack. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/QuacksilverPlays. You can also find me, I'll be around haunting this little shindig called Lady Arcader's Super Showcase. I'm going to be on the mic for a couple more runs on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to that. And you can find me in the Discord communities of so many indie games. Run indie games. That's my sign off. No, thank you also. Thanks to Lady Arcader's staff for setting this up, letting me run 2 really cool games for you all this weekend. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Allison, where can we find you?
I'm also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Allison8bit, where I do all kinds of indie games as well. But bunch of variety and all kinds of different fun things.
Thank you again for a phenomenal showcase of Lone Fungus and that true ending. I appreciate your skill and your knowledge. Stay tuned, chat, because we have type !schedule. But next up, we have a cave crawler any percent run by JPEG, so make sure that you stay tuned.